Hey everybody from Windy Acre Bees out in western Massachusetts, and we're just taking a little stroll over here making sure our fence charger is still working, and it is. I do this on a daily basis now because those colonies down there in the end were a couple of five that got destroyed by a black bear about 2 months ago. Our winter has been very mild this year, which is really unusual for us. We're usually sitting on 2 feet of snow, and I think we just had 8 inches of snow day before yesterday. You would never know it, but it melted down pretty quick, which is nice this time of year. It doesn't melt down, but we actually have a foot of snow coming tomorrow night into Saturday, maybe a little bit more than a foot, they're saying. So as much as I hate this time of year, it's because you're just ready to go. You get some nice breaks in weather, and then winter comes back with a vengeance. So yeah, we got a lot to do. So what we're going to end up doing is I wanted to answer a couple questions and show you the differences with some frames, some different types of frames for your colonies. And we're going to move over and do this. We're going to head out to my shed and continue putting stuff together for frames. As you can see here, I only got a month, just over a month, before our bees start getting really active again, and I have to go through all these boxes here. It just creeps on you really fast this time of year, so we're going to be busy just about every day, every evening, but we're going to head over here and get inside, and we're going to answer some questions on frames, the types of frames, wax foundation versus plastic foundation, and how to wax them, so stay tuned. Hey beekeepers from Windy Acre Bees out here in western Massachusetts. I wanted to go over frames today, mostly for newer beekeepers. And the reason for this is I had someone who is I'm mentoring underneath me. Last year, she called me up. She says, can you come over and look at my beehives? Something's not right. And of course, the first thing I thought is maybe she's got a mite issue or something like that. But she says my colony is not any bigger here in July than it was when I put them in at the end of March. And I said, okay. So I made arrangements to go over there, and we broke open her hive. And she had a nice little group of bees in there. They were busy flying, doing their thing, healthy and everything. But when I pulled out her frames, they just basically looked like this. They were just empty. Maybe 1 or 2 bees crawling on it, and other bees just wandering on it and wondering what to do with it. To a bee, when you put these frames in there undrawn like this, they look like a plastic wall to them. They don't know what to do with this. The manufacturers of these, when you buy them, they say heavy wax, and as opposed to plain plastic and a couple brush strokes of wax that they throw on here when they manufacture these, sure, it may be heavy wax, but it really isn't. And so that's something that we're going to correct here in a few minutes to show you how to do it. But when you put your packages and then in your hives, or you have nooks and you add to frames for your nooks, number one, for any frame to get drawn out, you have to have a good nectar flow going on. So that's number one problem there that we got to make sure that we take care of, or they got to be being fed really good. Once we get past the end of July going into August, they're going to stop drawing out these frames, even if we're feeding them. So to get these put in a colony, just blank like this, they don't have any place to put food on it. They don't have any place to lay eggs, and therefore they shun these and they don't do anything with them. And that's the problem I had. And I decided, well, what if I put wax on these? I actually didn't even see any videos yet about it. I was just like, well, what if I melt some wax on these? So then I went and I did some digging back a long time ago and figured out, well, this is what we should do. So waxing these, I'll show you how to do this in a few minutes. But Some of her frames that were in there looked like this, and this is a black plastic foundation, and I'm sure you guys have all seen what we call that funky wonky weird drawn comb, and we wonder why that happens. Well, in this particular instance here, the reason why it happens is the factory, they took a couple brush strokes of wax, threw them on here, did the same thing here. So when we put these inside of the colony, what ends up happening is the bees see and register that that's where that wax is, and they figure some other bee has started drawing out comb right there, so they just continue to do that. Whereas over here there was no wax at all, and they didn't start drawing here. Now this one here, this one might have fared a little bit better because they started drawing out in the middle on the top, and they're drawing a big section, so this, they probably would have spread this out more as far as drawing comb, but in the middle anyways is just this comb that's just popped out, and what this will end up doing is bridging to the next frame next door to it, and it all getting stuck, and then you pull them out and make a mess. So that is one of the reasons why they draw comb out funky like this. I've never seen comb drawn out like this on a wax foundation ever. It's only on the plastic, and it's because that's where the wax was brushed on, so that's where they drew their comb out. So we want to prevent doing that from happening, because that doesn't work at all either. So we're going to set that aside and talk about one other thing before we get more into foundations. The next question that she had was, what is the difference between a wedge bar frame and a regular frame? And I said, okay, let me show you. So I took a couple frames now. Here is your shallow frame, here is your medium frame, and then you have your deep frame right here. So we'll take this deep frame, for instance. On the top of this, when you get these that have wedge bars, you will see that there is a groove on the side of the wedge bar. So basically that indicates to me that this is a wedge bar frame, and then now I can pop that piece of wedge bar, that bar, right out of the top of it. And now I can use this for either a plastic foundation by placing this into the bottom groove. I'll try to do this for you guys so you can see it really good. But we're going to place it in the bottom groove. Doing this a little backwards here. And make sure that it fits in that groove all the way across. And then you're going to lay the foundation in so that it rests on the top right here. And then you're going to take your wedge bar and you're going to wedge that frame right inside of there, just like that. Once you wedge it in there, you're going to pop a couple staples or small nails, probably 4 of them, all the way across, and then you're going to have your foundation. Now you can do this with wax too. Do it the same way with your wax foundation. I have an old wax foundation that's broken, but I'll show you the differences between the two. What do they do with it? I don't know. So I will show you a foundation that is already put together. This is wax. Can you see the wires that are in there? That's for the support for that brood frame, for that wax right there. And it's basically, you see the difference. You have yellow and white and black plastic foundations available to you. I like the black because you can see the eggs better. And then you have this wax here, and it's a lot thinner. When you're using this here, make sure you warm it up inside the house so it's nice and warm. Not too warm where it just falls apart or melts, but you don't want it cold enough where it's super brittle. It's like a very, I don't know, it's like a very thin plastic, but it's actually wax, and it will break very easy if you do work with these in the cold. This time of year, you can't get these shipped up to the northern part of the country because they just won't do it because they'll break in transit. But probably about the end of March, you can safely get these shipped up here. So that's the differences in your wedge bar frame. And then you have your standard top bars. And I'll pop this plastic out quick, show you that. This one right here, it is solid all the way across on both sides, and this is just a standard top bar frame. These you can only use your wax or your plastic foundations in. So to put them in, you slide them into the groove here on the bottom, and then you just take your thumb and you just press the top, starting at a corner and just working across. And you got to make sure that they're inside that top groove up here. And then what I like to do is I like to take these the frame right here, and I like to just slide it back and forth, and that once it slides back and forth freely, I know it's in there right. The corners of your plastic foundations are perforated here. So what I can do, some beekeepers won't do it, but I do, I snap them off with my finger, and now that that corner is open, it looks like this right here. They have a hole, the transit, in between each side of the frame. On the side here, before I put these in, see the gap that's right here on the side? I can close that by sliding that one way or another, but I like to leave one end open so that they have a transit, a place to transition from one side of the frame to the other. So that is those frames right there. Give you a little bit better of understanding. There are two other frames that I like to talk to people about. One is a starter strip. Now, if you got a strong colony and you want to let them draw out their own foundations, you can do that by taking either wax or plastic, a strip about 2 inches right here, and placing it into the top where that wedge bar is, and just leaving it just like that and setting that inside the hive. Now, I will put a little bit of wax on here if it's plastic, and I'll set this inside my swarm traps, or I'll set these up inside of my deep bodies and let them just naturally draw this down. And they draw their own comb out. If it's if it's a newer package or a nook where it's not a lot of bees, I won't do it, just because I don't want them expending their energy drawing all this comb down. I want them drawing out new comb and laying eggs and populating. So I'll do this for a strong colony, and that's a starter strip. The other frame that they have is called a drone comb. Now, you can get plastic foundation frames. It's all molded one piece. You can't change the frames. You can't change the foundation in them at all. You really can't fix them if they break for some reason. But a lot of beekeepers, commercial beekeepers, use these, and they're really flexible and easy to use. They still have to be waxed. This one here, the reason why it's green, just keep this in the back of your mind, only the green plastic frames, full frames, and foundation are for drones. This is nothing but drone comb. And we use this for mite mitigation. We will place this in as the third or fourth frame in from the edge, and they will draw this out. And then once she lays her drone eggs in here, and as soon as they're capped over, we'll take these out, we'll put them inside of a freezer for about 2 days, pull them out, let them thaw a little bit, and then we'll stick them back in the frame inside the hive a couple days later. They'll clean the dead bees out within a day or two, and she'll go through and she'll start laying more eggs in again. The purpose of this is that mites gravitate towards drone comb over regular worker comb. So once the larva starts growing in here, the mites go into here, and then they cap these over, and when these are capped over, we have the mites trapped, and then we put these inside of a freezer to kill them, and then they clean them up later. So the mites gravitate towards drone comb because the drones, because of the lifespan of the drones, gives those mites a little bit more feeding time, unfortunately, on these. But very important, don't leave this in here, let all the drones hatch. There's 6,000 to 7,000 combs, probably about 6,000 combs on here, so you can have potentially, once you get this filled up with drones, 6,000 drones on here with 2 mites in each comb. That's 12,000 mites. You don't want to let these hatch and let 12,000 mites into your colony. Get them out, get them frozen, and put them back in. Do not leave these inside of your colony all season without doing that. I will, for some reason, it's really weird, but for some reason, even if I don't wax this, the bees seem to like to draw out this drone comb. Now, I don't know if that's because they know it's mating season, so they want to get as many drones out as they can. I couldn't tell you, but even if these aren't waxed for some reason, they will draw out drone comb over this worker comb. So that's it. But I will put some wax, a little bit of wax on here anyways, and then this will be ready for use. Now, if you want to clean these up at the end of the year or at any time, just take a scraper and you can scrape off all the all the comb that's on there, and then just take a power washer or a strong sprayer and just spray it. All that'll come clean off really quick, and then you can reuse it again. So you'll see plastic frame like this that are black and white in different colors. Those are fine. Those are regular brood comb, but this green ones only are for drone comb. So that's it with that. The only other thing I could think of was the different colors. You can see here, this is black. These are like a yellow here. The different manufacturers, different colors sometimes, but you can specifically look for black. The bees don't care what color it is as long as you have that wax on there. So what we're going to do is pop this one out real quick. The other thing too is I found that the black foundations are a lot more flexible. They're a lot thinner than these yellow ones. These are a little bit thicker, so personal preference, I guess. And that's it. So I was talking about them drawing the foundations out. They just won't, as plastic, they won't draw these out, period. They just won't do it. So what I do is I encourage them to draw that out. So I got an electric skillet here. I put in about 3 pounds of beeswax. You can get any from, if you don't have any of your own, you can get it from a bee supply store. And melt that in this skillet. This is a non-stick skillet, so if I don't use all the wax, I just basically pour it into a tin. I got one of these bread tins here. Again, stuff you can pick up at Olson State Job Lot real cheap. But I got a tin right here, and I'll just pour that wax into there when it's done and reuse it later, and take a paper towel while this is still warm and just clean out the wax that's in there. It cleans up really fast, really easy. But so we want to wax these. Pay attention to getting your wax at least mostly on the top. If you're not working with a lot of wax, get it mostly on the top so they'll start drawing down. If you put wax on the top and no wax down here, they'll start drawing this down, and they'll just keep going. They'll just keep following suit all the way down. This right here won't bother them. But what I do is, let me find, I think this one's done. This one is only partially done. This side's not done yet. So, not very hard. And just keep in mind that your roller right here, let me show you what they look like normally. Use a sponge roller, 4-inch sponge roller, and not a nap or paint roller, because it just makes a mess and it globs too much wax on these. This is just a little sponge roller. It's got a hole in the end there, and it basically goes onto this 4-inch roller handle. And saturate your roller, your sponge roller, really, really good. The reason why you want to have it evenly waxed all the way around that roller, so that you don't have skips in the wax on your frame. Start from the top of your frame and just put a light coat. Just go easy, just barely roll it on there. And it's going to take you 1 or 2 of these frames to get used to it. And then what I like to do is, after I do that and I have this really saturated, I like to press down a second time. Not so that it puddles. I don't want it puddling on the on this foundation, but just bear down on that a little bit, and that's all you got to do. And then you can. This dries really, really fast. It cools super quick, especially in here when it's only like 55 degrees. And then I'm going to go over to do this side too. I just roll that around a little bit, get the excess off the roller. Light coat first. 1, 2, and then I'm going to take a more firm approach, bear down a little bit, not too hard, but just enough so you don't puddle the wax onto the frame, and a nice slow stroke like that. Here you go. That's all you got to do. And now this is a heavy wax foundation. You'll actually be able to just place your hand on it. It'll feel tacky, a little sticky, and then you know you got that wax on there. Now, if you put a little bit too much, if you get like a chunk right here or whatever, just take your finger and just pick it off. Throw it back inside of your wax melter, and just make sure it's pretty smooth. If you leave these big chunks on here, it deters them from building past those big chunks. So you want to get this drawn out uniformly, and that's it. So when you're all done, this one here I just did as a just to show you guys what it looks like. This one has not been done right. What I did is I did it here in the middle and forgot to do these parts, and it's just to show you how ununiform, I guess you could say, it can look. But I'll show you one here that's a little bit better and a lighter coating. This one here has got more cells covered, and like I said, they're not filled up, but now they're going to start drawing this down and drawing this out really fast, just like that. So this one was a white one, but this gives you an idea of what this actually looks like, because it's hard to see the wax because it's the same color on here. And that is pretty much it that I can think of. Again, these dry really quick, so you can stack them on top of each other and move right along. And then once I get all done, I take an empty frame, like this one here, and I set it in the bottom. And keep in mind, this is the one. Oh, that was the other thing too. On the very bottom here, if you get any wax buildup on that, just scrape it off, because it won't be able to fit in these grooves. But I just pop it in the groove, and then I smack it in there. Make sure that this moves back and forth a little bit. It moves back and forth pretty good. And now this is ready to drop right inside of your hive body. What I like to do is just mark on here. I'll just put 23 on here so I know how old these frames are and how long this comb has been drawn out and used. About every 4 or 5 years, start transitioning to new frames for them to draw out and better comb so it's cleaner. But that's it. That's all you got to do with these, and it's very, very simple. Very, it's not painful at all. Don't be intimidated by it. We want the bees to draw out a frame that looks like this, and use it for their food storage and for their brood rearing, and that's it. So if you guys have any questions on plastic versus wax, if you have your preferences, go ahead and throw it in the comment section as to why you have those preferences. Beekeepers do a lot of things differently. We do a lot of things the same. I have my preferences. This year I'm actually going to be checkerboarding in some of my colonies, the plastic foundation and the wax foundation. Just for myself, I want to see how fast the wax gets drawn out as opposed to how fast my waxed plastic frames get drawn out, and see if it's about the same or less or more depending on which one they choose. And I'll do an update video at that time just to show you what they preferred and what they didn't prefer, and that'll help you along in building up your colonies with these frames. Now, one thing I just wanted to mention for new beekeepers, and I think I mentioned it in the last video, if you're going to throw in a bunch of these plastic frames, please wax these. It's going to be very difficult on your bees initially because the plastic frames just have nothing to them. They're not drawn out. They don't have any comb to put food in. The queen has no place to lay, so it puts you behind the 8 ball a little bit as far as your bee populations are concerned. And if you don't wax these frames, then you're going to get even further back and possibly lose your package of bees, within a month or so. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the comment section. Be happy to answer them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you a little bit. And as always, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.